Welcome back to our Crisis in the Classroom Town Hall final exam. We are now joined by our panel for cybersecurity and addressing school threats. And now to introduce our panel, we have Westerly Superintendent Mark Garceau. We have Mike Soika from the Westerly School District as well. He handles a lot of the cybersecurity things. We have Doug Tondreau from Johnson & Wales University. And to my left, we have Lieutenant John LeDuc from Tiverton Police. We also have Officer Jackie Smeldone from Tiverton Police. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So we're going to start with cybersecurity incidents. We know that Westerly Schools specifically dealt with a data breach with a specific software that you guys use, the Power School system. Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened during that time?
We got an email from Power School suggesting that something happened, but that email didn't really tell us much other than to contact them. So Power School has like a national user support group, which is what makes it so powerful, is that all these people from across the country are now going through all the logs and try to identify it. So within a very short period of time from that email, we're able to identify that we were affected, so we could contact our local police, state police, and our cybersecurity insurance vendor.
Yeah, and you guys did realize through your investigations that no sensitive data was taken, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So in some districts, sensitive data is loaded into these systems. It's not the case in Westerly, so we were fortunate there. But Power School houses a lot of our information that helps run the district, our student schedules, our teacher schedules, all of our evaluations. So there's a great deal of data that's used to run the district on a day-to-day basis. And to have that compromised in any way creates a lot of liability for us, could potentially shut us down and really impede our efforts to move forward. So it was a big deal, but Mike was right on top of it and navigated that very, very well.
And we know Westerly is not the only district locally that uses Power Schools, but you guys were able to be proactive about it when you found out from Power Schools that something was happening.
Right.
And you also were very proactive about telling your community, your school community, about it. And there's a lot of things you can do to protect yourself. What do you recommend other families do?
I would always recommend multi-factor authentication on your banking, your personal, your socials. In addition, everyone has the ability to lock their credit for free. So anyone is capable of doing it. It is best to do it now because breaches will continue to happen.
Yeah, and we know schools are targets. Unfortunately, infrastructure is not quite there. And Doug, do you want to touch on that briefly with, why schools are targeted more so than maybe other businesses?
I would say a lot of the reasons you're seeing it happen, right? Power School was formerly known as Schoology, actually. So Schoology got it bought out by Power School, and Power School has over 50 million users. And the reason that I would say it's easy to target a lot of the schools is because often they don't, apply the proper security methods that they need to, right? They'll do MFA, but there's MFA attacks that can essentially happen. There's session hijacking that could happen. So I think a lot of what needs to happen is when schools invest in that infrastructure, they need to add additional layers of security to ensure, which I think Westerly did, to make sure that even though the data may get compromised, but it's encrypted and secure, so you don't have to worry about the potential aspect of students' personal information getting out there, social security, address, so on and so forth. So I always recommend adding additional layers of security when you're making an investment in a learning management system such as Power School to make sure that that doesn't happen. And to, I would say, work with the state officials and to have them use some of the taxpayer dollars to actually help be proactive in some of those decisions that are being made. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and it is an investment, like you said, and sometimes that is the barrier for school districts because it is a cost.
Correct.
And you said MFA, that is multi-factor authentication, correct?
Correct. So multi-factor authentication. I would also say to use some kind of FIPS validated module encryption at the web browser side of things, because even if you have MFA, I could still capture those cookies and do an MFA replay attack, which essentially allows me to still relog into the environment. So, but MFA is definitely something that I recommend, and to back up the data and encrypt it. If you encrypt the data, then even if it gets compromised, to his point, it always will. It's going to happen, but at least you know it's encrypted and there's nothing they could do with it.
And we know there are cyber criminals across the globe who are targeting a lot of these school districts. And, you know, can you give us an idea of how often this happens? We know that they get blocked sometimes, but there are instances where they can get in.
Yeah, so I actually have a database that we've built at Johnson & Wales where we monitor a lot of what's happening. It's essentially a business now, right? So a lot of companies actually have infrastructure where that's what they do. They have bots that exist on the cloud, and really the goal of the bots is to kind of crawl through different web servers and see what vulnerabilities exist, common usernames, common passwords. And once those vulnerabilities are discovered, what these bots will essentially do is the criminals will essentially sell it, right? They'll sell that information, and that's when you get hit with ransom, when they start releasing some of the data. I would say I see them daily. And it's just a matter of, you know, being proactive and knowing what new attacks or what zero-day attacks are coming up, so we can be mindful of it, because it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, and I know we have cybersecurity issues that are definitely on top of mind. We also have school threats that can sometimes be a physical threat or maybe social media threats, which obviously sort of bridges that gap as well into the cybersecurity world. For you guys in Tiverton, I'm sure you deal with things that have to do with, you know, school threats almost on a daily basis sometimes.
Yes, a lot with the students. You know, we get a lot of calls, bullying type calls, cyberbullying. Unfortunately, you know, these days, kids, you know, are always in front of the screen and 24/7 access. So, you know, it's a constant issue.
Yeah, and what do you think works when it comes to handling school threats? We know that they can come from almost anywhere, whether it be a phone call or Instagram, Facebook, you know, all of those things. What works?
So social media obviously has taken on, for our schools, the cyberbullying. It's easy to identify. You get the usernames, you can look at threats before they come, and then you can also look into it with social media. So a lot of the kids use TikTok, Instagram, and it's not only when the bullying happens, now after, they're continuing online. So dealing with that, it can be complicated, but it's easier for us to kind of identify who we're dealing with, where it's coming from.
Talk about the importance of sharing information with families. We know sometimes these are very sensitive topics and we can't give too much to not put somebody else at risk, but, you know, being proactive about telling the community is pretty important, right?
Yeah, awareness is key, you know, and having that communication with the parents. Really, I mean, it falls on the parents to ensure that their kids, you know, are being protected, and whether or not that's having, you know, limited access.
Usually anytime there's a threat too that we're involved in, we'll put out something as well as a school to email the parents. Things do get misconstrued sometimes, and people kind of have their own ideas about things, but it puts a lot of people at ease.
In addition to the cyber threats and somebody grabbing our data or holding it ransom, as the officers were saying, a lot of times the things we're dealing with on a Monday morning started on social media on Saturday night or whatever. And there could be a fight, there could be bullying going on. And even once that's been addressed, it continues on social media, it gets perpetuated. So having strong relationships, open communication between the school districts and our friends in law enforcement, and we're very fortunate in Westerly to have that, I'm sure they are in Tiverton as well, is absolutely key. We can always pick up the phone, reach out, share what we know, problem solve. So it's really a collaboration that's critical.
Yeah, and I know we've seen, you know, scenarios where sometimes the threats come from students in the building, and you guys have been very outspoken about making sure that community relationship is there with your students that you work with every day. Talk about why that's so important.
Building that relationship with the
Yes,
students, and I
yeah.
think having them trust you and to come forward with you. We do have an anonymous online like school option that they can go through, but a lot of it is word of the mouth. Like, I saw this, can you identify or like address this? And it does help. Like you had said, a lot of the fights are stirred from social media, and it's all a lot of talking online, and then it gets brought into the schools, and kind of having other students identify that and bringing it to me first can prevent that, which is huge.
And, you know, to give Jackie credit, I mean, she's got an open door policy, you know, with the students. So, you know, just watching her interact with the students and the great relationships that she's, you know, created with these students really, I think, helps, you know, foster that comfort, you know, where students can come in and have those conversations with her. So she kind of gets a little bit of a heads up on, you know, when things are happening within the school.
Thank you all so much for joining us today for our Crisis in the Classroom Town Hall Special.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.